Hi, I'm Lauren Wood Salazar, and my occupation is I work in the wood cellar at New Belgium Brewing Company. I've been there for 18 years. I've done a variety of jobs there. Started the sensory program and worked in the sensory lab for about 13 years. Specialty brand manager. I do a lot of educational programs. I've been in the wood cellar the whole time.
And she's the bomb. My name is Ted. I'm a brewer at New Belgium. I've been there for about 4 years, the last two of which has been pretty much specialized in the wood cellar, so working with the fooders, the small barrel, stuff like that. So
he is, yeah. So Ted, over the last couple of years, when we had the last 32 barrels, we got our last, when we doubled the wood cellar, Ted was probably one of the most clutch, see how I worked that in there,
nice.
humans that rehabilitated all of those really dry fooders. And I would say that Ted is probably, he's the champion of our second phase of the cellar. Superhero.
Okay.
And Lauren's the number one beer tasting person on earth, I would say.
First one's for you, Lauren. It's question is, what is it like to be a woman working in a male-dominated beer industry? I'm sure a question you get fairly often.
I do. What is it like to be a woman in a male-dominated industry? I wouldn't know. I really have never taken that much stock in that concept because I think that no one's ever made me feel like that. I've been very much felt like an equal, and I know that it's probably because I work at New Belgium and there's a very there's a lot of women in higher jobs there, but I would say that has been a really great thing for me because I never thought about it and I never focused on it, and therefore I could just work. And I would say that, so what does it feel like? It feels normal. And all the people at New Belgium we're equal opportunity beer drinkers. So that's been pretty easy for me. And I know I can't say the same thing for every woman out there. And so that's why there's such great things as the Pink Boots Society. I kind of think that New Belgium has been the Pink Boots Society and that we just have never really given it a thought one way or the other, like if someone's a girl or a guy or...
Yeah, it's amazing for me. It's something that I'm proud to be a part of. A lot of our CEO, our CFO, there's a lot of very strong women that are in leadership roles in the company. But I would be surprised for you to ask how does it feel to be a male with a beard in the brewing industry?
Did you read my mind? I was going to ask you, how does that feel?
Yeah, it has been. I would say that I wouldn't trade it for the world because it has. I won't say easy. It's been, but I haven't had to give it a thought. Lucky.
So we have a lot of home brewers in Kansas City, and I'm sure there's home brewers everywhere and small breweries starting up.
There's a home brewer at this table.
Isn't you?
One of the questions a couple people were asking was, how do you get started with aging and souring beers, and then how do you blend, and how would you recommend going about
in a home
there?
brew setting?
Yeah, in a home.
Yeah, so you can, because you guys
tricky.
are doing, yeah.
I would say you have to try a lot and have a lot of patience. And
don't sample so much. Stop sample 1/5
beware,
of the
heed
times
the
that you
pellicle.
actually want to. Heed the pellicle. That's a good. I'm gonna make that T-shirt. Heed the pellicle. Don't punch the protective layer. I would say that the concept is, if you're not gonna buy 10 60-gallon barrels, then blending isn't really in your future, and that's okay too. Small barrels are good. The biggest thing is just really understanding the concept of surface area to liquid is a big deal. and just getting a healthy zoo in your barrel. And the first couple times that you're going to make sour beer are not going to go well. And it's okay that you make vinegar the first 15 times. It's okay, because you don't know until you've actually starved your bugs. You don't know how far you can get them. And you know when they're hungry because you have made vinegar and ethyl acetate. And then when that happens, the next time try to stop 2 months before that, and that's as sour as it's going to get. Blending is different. I would say if you're going to blend, I would say that you make a really sour beer and blend a beer. That's a really great way to start blending.
Yeah, I would.
Because then you can get back body and malt and esters and things like that way.
For me, the blending is hedonic. Do you like it? Do you,
Which
you
one?
blend to achieve a vision that
This one
isn't
has this. I
enjoyable
like
liquid,
this one
but-
because it has malt. I like this one because it has bread. I like this one because it is super sour. And if I put the super sour as 70% and then a little 10% of the Brett, and I don't remember what the rest of that's 20% left of the malt.
I would say also the ability, the understanding that dump beer, it's okay. We dump sour beer sometimes because we know that it's not good. And so if I was talking to my brother who's a home brewer and say, Bill, this is what you should do if you want to start making sour beers, probably plan on drinking your first decent sour beer in like 6 years and make a lot of them. And then
If you read my notebook, the first 10 or not in the 1999 through 2004 or something like that, there was a lot of notes that were much less than desirable, but at least you'd see big X's because those barrels would get dumped, they'd get cleaned, they'd get filled again, and that's the big deal. It's you got to know when to hold them and know when to dump them. Sweet Power Ram. It's a freaking sweet truck. Look at that thing.
that actually is pretty decent.
Okay, since you get started as the forefront leader in sour beers, a lot's changed. The popularity of sour beers and the palates for sour beers have changed. Do you believe it can continue to grow at the rate that it has the last couple of years? And then how do you envision, as kind of the pioneer of sour beers in America, how do you envision your company and your products going forward?
I would say the concept of the present and the future of sour beers. I think that there's just as much room on any tap. I think that what we're going to see is if you have 15, 20 taps, you're going to start seeing just as many. So IPAs, the malts, the whatever, and then there's going to always be this space for sour. I think the biggest thing for me right now, what's in the front of my mind, is making sure that the world, everyone who's drinking, knows what they're drinking. And so stainless and wood, the designation of these two are a really big deal for me right now. And while we make both of these beers, I think what I'm thinking about is how we can educate the consumer on what they're drinking. So if you're drinking a stainless sour, you should know that. And you should pay for that. And if you're drinking a wood-aged sour, you should know that, and you should pay for that. It's a big deal because they're completely different palates. One is super light, refreshing, easy, and the other is super complex. And those two are going to be very separate, hopefully. In the future, we can actually have two, because right now sour is one. And I think
beer with acid in it.
a beer with acid
and
is
you
now
have
sour.
You can have a reaction like this
Yeah, and
if it's aged in wood or in stainless.
and so that's a big deal. Is going forward is how do we go forward, and how do we, especially as New Belgium, because we do both, how can we promote both of them and have have an everyday sour and then have an occasion sour, or maybe your occasion sour is your everyday sour, depending on your budget. So I think that's a really big deal.
I drink Lafayette every night.
Every night, yeah, one whole 22-ounce bottle of Lafayette. I would think that it's easy. The reason why sours are so popular is because your body like really craves that taste,
You
and
drink
that's
lemonade,
great. Yeah,
Coke,
so
like
yep,
even a
everything
soda,
with
the pH of a soda
carbonic
is
acid,
super low,
and
and
it's just as low.
but it's like you drink lemonade and stuff like this. So for me,
For pleasure, yeah.
the palate, I don't see an end in sight for people liking to have a beverage that is somewhat salivating or puckering, something like that. But,
And I think the only thing that could stop it is bad sours. The proliferation of more and not quality.
and it takes
God
time.
forbid.
So,
Yeah. Unless it's stainless, then it only takes 1 hour, one day.
but it takes time also to produce a thing that you like to, figure out what is a nice end result product. So,
Sure. Well, hopefully.
Do you want to talk about a little bit about the differences between stainless and wood souring?
Like as in process.
Yeah, and process and
For-
kind of, I guess, what the best way to sell it to a consumer, the differences, and what they should
I
expect.
mean, this
in their
is
palates.
exactly what I'm like.
process-wise, I would say for us, we isolated a singular strain of lactobacillus from our malt, and we propagate that in a lab, and then we have a dedicated stainless vessel that we propagate this lactoculture in, and we
Feed.
make a feed, yeah, and so, but it's a very lactobacillus. Over 20 hours, 24 hours, you make lactic acid. That's the result of that.
Right. So it's like here's the beer, and it's the beer sour, and it's like so only one direction has changed. There's only literally one vector. So it's the beer that's now insanely sour, but nothing.
And now
else.
has a higher level of acid, which
Right.
like the wood age stuff for us, a
So
lot of
therefore,
the
the sweet is
profile.
gone, the malt or that complexity is gone, but it's now very one-sided, very unidimensional
Yeah.
in that flavor profile. Whereas wood, there are
It's old
infinite
beer. It's
number of
it's
things
3
that
years
happen.
old beer, so you get some of these.
We were talking about this last night.
Yeah.
The oxidative qualities that are actually very fun, especially in the Maillard type beers, the darker beers, like all those sherry. Or we were talking about this, and
Caramel and all that stuff. You get some of that, not just the acid.
right.
So,
Bretta,
and the Brettanomyces.
yeah, like Bretta, Funk, it's unbelievable to taste if you taste our base beers and then you taste the sour beer, like the Felix, and then say, the sour of it, or the Oscar and Lawfully, it's unbelievable how different those beers are and how many new things and how many new dimensions and facets that happen to that beer. The complexity is
It's awesome.
indescribable.
Tastes
And we
great.
were talking about that. It's indescribable. We don't describe it anymore because it's impossible. It's like describing every facet of a diamond. It just is impossible to do.
So I would say, as like a roundup, a stainless sour is a nice way to do it. You can put
Refreshing.
Brettanomyces. It's more singular and less, fully complex. Usually, I would say. So
Yep. Good one.
thank you.
You mentioned the differences being the aging. What are your feelings on, you put a beer out that you've been aging yourself and you think it's perfect now to drink for, you've been aging 2 to 3 years. What are your feelings on people buying them and aging them for another 2 to 3 years?
I'm not going to say anything.
This is a rather large debate now.
I'll say one thing. If somebody
we
ever
also were
asks me,
talking about
this
this.
is my personal. If somebody says, "Hey, I got this beer. When should I?" I would say, "Do you have time tonight, or
Right.
do you have time tomorrow night?" That's when I would probably drink it.
For me, I like all of my beers to be, when I purchase them, I want them to be ready. If you're going to sell me a barley wine, you're in charge of aging it. I'm not. I'm the consumer, and everything it should be ready. My other thing is the concept of cellaring. Of course, I'm insanely passionate about. I'm very anti-cellar, and everybody knows that. And it's a really easy thing to push me into a wild debate about that, because I just kind of feel like
Less of a debate, maybe, and more just like,
Like,
You
'cause you're wrong. Like, well, I mean, I feel like when Ted and I and Eric, we sit down and we make a blend, you know, that's a lot. You know, this foeder's been there for 2 years. This foeder's been there for a year and a half. This foeder's been there for 8 months. This foeder's been there.
the flavor profile is intentional.
And so when we pick this perfect blend, I mean, when we're tasting the blend, it's perfect. And we couldn't ask for it to be any better, because if we would choose a different barrel, you know, we would do it a different way. And so this is perfect. And when I see people drinking, you know, 3 and 4 year old beer, it makes me cringe, like, to think that when they're like, oh, it's okay. And I'm like, yeah, because it was great then. But it's not just our beer. And I think it's like when it makes me laugh. Like, people will drink Dre Fontaine and they'll buy it and then they'll age it for X amount of time. And as if that there's something that Armand missed, that he didn't do right. And that to me is offensive. I'm offended for him that someone thinks that their sock drawer is going to do some magic that he didn't do, you know. So I doubt that. And he actually, I had this debate with him, and he felt opposite. He thought that once the consumer had the product, it did not matter. It was up to them, and I was wildly
Plus,
opposed
like, if you
to
get one of
that.
those Star Wars figurines
And if
in
you
a
Just
like a
effing play with it. I don't care if it's Slave Leia. I want, like.
yeah, but it's still in the plastic from the 80s. No,
This is actually a debate I was having at my house the other night. I want to open Slave Leia.
but I think for me personally, there can be occasions to age a beer, but usually I don't.
I don't age beer. I just have a beer buying problem. And I can't drink all of them fast enough. Just want to buy all of them, and then I shouldn't drink all of them at the same time. And if you come to my house, I always say you are allowed to drink anything. If you can touch it, you can drink it. And I also like to do that when I walk into friends' houses, especially ones that I know cellar. I will run from the front door and go try to open as many things as I possibly can before they can stop me.
Okay, last question for you guys. If you can collaborate with anybody, any brewery on making a sour beer, who would it be and why?
Captain Lawrence in New York.
I know, it's easy. That's his.
It's the closest brewery to my folks' place. They're kind of my hometown heroes, and they make some of the best wild, sour, funky beers that I've had. The first beer that I ever waited in the line, the second time I've only done this twice, but the first one was to buy their Cuvée de Castleton, which later went on to win gold, I think, at JBF the same year. And this is a little bit longer, but so I bought a couple bottles, you know, whatever, 2 limit, 3 limit, whatever it is. I got a couple, I brought them home. I was staying at I cellared them and then I opened them and they tasted gross. No, I was staying at my sister's place and I put them all in the fridge because I was going to drink them quickly. And she had another friend come through, and the next morning he's like, "Oh, dude, Ted, I had one of the beers in the fridge. It tasted sour. It was gross." I was like,
My dad's done that.
but yeah, Captain Lawrence in New York. They are.
Short answer, Captain Lawrence. Is that your final answer?
It's my favorite brewery.
No, we all know. I can't even answer that question because we've made
Just like Captain
we've done
Lawrence.
we've done collaborations with my favorite brewers. You know, Perennial. That wasn't sour, but at least we've done those collaborations here, and then we've done I had Selena, blends. We have people that come in and blend. We did the collaboration with Rare Barrel. Done fun stuff with Yazoo and
Avery,
Oud Beer Soul, no big deal. But yeah, so I think that right now I'm tired of like thinking I wish somebody would just ask me to do a class. Like I always ask everybody. I feel like I'm always asking people to the prom, and nobody ever asks me just to the prom. It's Captain Lawrence.
Awesome. Well, that's it.
Yay.
That was great. That wasn't so hard.
Yeah.
That wasn't so hard.